28 серпня продовжує роботу.
28th of August, Ukraine Forum is continuing its job, and my name is Svetlana Cheparenko. As part of the main discussion platform Brain Hub, we're having a signing of a memorandum between Inter-Factional Association, Tribunal for Russian Aggressors, the All-Ukrainian NGO Ukrainian Bar Association, and the International Bar Association. I will introduce our guest, Oleksandr Kachura, member of the Ukrainian Parliament, co-chair of the NGO Tribunal for Russian Aggressors, member of the working group created by the President on the creation of an international tribunal criminals against Ukraine. Dr. Ellis, expert on the international criminal law, executive director of the International Bar Association. Anton, Korynevych, ambassador of the Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine. Oleh, Havrysh, chief consultants of the organizational department under the cabinet of the head of the president's office. Oleksandr, tell us please about what the work group is engaged in, the work group that was created by the president on the creation of the International Tribunal, and what the group is doing and how it's related with the signing of the memorandum that happens today, and why this particular event is important for Ukraine. Hello, greetings to everyone. Since the first days of the full-scale invasion to Ukraine, when people gave us only 3 days, this was the time when we started discussing the creation of a special tribunal for crimes committed against our country, our nation. As lawyers, we understand that peace is not possible without justice, and any justice in the world is impossible without persecution, without punishment. And that's what we're talking about here, justice and punishment. That's the base of the President Zelensky's peace plan. And it's an integral part of what our leader is talking about, our government is talking about. Well, as far as our work is concerned, I think my colleagues will elaborate on that. We've came up with a text that was proposed to our partners. We have a core group working on it, and we'll have subsequent meetings. And as of today, the question is what model we're using to create the tribunal. It's not the question whether it would be created in the first place. And now the work is ongoing in the parliament. We've registered this initiative. We've appealed to international institutions and countries, and we've sent hundreds of appeals from the parliament, signed by the parliament speaker. It was supported by our partners' parliaments. They already did political resolutions to support the creation of the International Tribunal. We've appealed to international institutions as well. And in that context, support by the national lawyers is important. Experts like association, the National Bar Association, I think it's one of the most influential organization here, and the International Bar Association that was created back in 1947. It has offices in London, Washington, Seoul, and other cities. It has 80,000 of lawyers, judges, international experts that represent more than 200 bar associations. And the main thing, since 1947, the International Bar Association has a special consultative status under the UN General Assembly. And it's pretty helpful for Ukraine because this influential organization that should support the creation of the International Tribunal through the General Assembly. So it should be international tribunal, that's the key word, and no other internationalized tribunals are possible. And we talked about that on the international conference. It's a part of the communique that was based on the results of our international conference. And the head of the International Bar Association, Mark Ellis, is a head of the advisory council in international tribunals under UN, and that's a great honor to have him here. Now we can have a discussion on that level and have support by Dr. Ellis, who was actually a legal advisor in different commissions like International Commission in Kosovo. He participated in the creation of Serbia Tribunal in war crimes. He participated in a prosecution process against Saddam Hussein that's quite critical for our country right now. And we will sign this memorandum, which is the first in its kind in history, to join efforts of hundreds of thousands of Ukrainian and international lawyers in advocacy of the creation of international tribunal to prosecute those who committed aggression against our country. And we count on both official, governmental, and unofficial support, international organizations, and their consultative bodies are headed by people like Mr. Ellis and other lawyers, and we need to join our efforts to sign this memorandum. We need to have an end product to make sure that the tribunal is created and the criminals are punished. If we have tribunal, we will have victory. Thank you, Oleksandr.
What is needed for the tribunal for Putin takes place, and what is your contribution to this process?
Well, first, let me thank you for the invitation to be here. I arrived this morning. This is my third trip to Ukraine since the war started. And that hopefully is an indication to Ukraine that the International Bar Association is steadfast in supporting Ukraine against the aggression from Russia. We have been adamant since Russia invaded Ukraine that this is a violation of the most sacred principle of international law, and that accountability must be assured against those who have not only committed war crimes during the war, but those who are in the top positions of deciding, who have control over decisions on the invasion itself. And that, at the very top of that level, is Mr. Putin himself. President Zelensky spoke to the International Bar Association's annual conference last year in Miami, where he called on the legal profession to support accountability, including creating a special tribunal for the crime of aggression. We took that request seriously because of our admiration for President Zelensky, our respect for all Ukrainians, and our belief that international law must be upheld. And because of that, this year, the International Bar Association's governing council, that includes over 200 bar associations from throughout the world and the top lawyers from out the world, unanimously passed a resolution indicating our support for the creation of an international special tribunal for the crime of aggression. I'm not certain I remember at any time in the history of the IBA where a council of diverse thoughts and opinions came together and unanimously approved a resolution of this magnitude. And because of that, we believe not only is this memorandum of understanding important to continue the journey to ensuring that a tribunal is created, but a recommitment from us that we will be here in support of Ukraine and in support of ensuring accountability. Because if the crime of aggression is not implemented against the leadership of Russia for its egregious attack against Ukraine, then I'm not sure what would ensure that commitment. And this is why I think it's a challenge to the international community to ensure that this tribunal is created and then to provide the support necessary for the tribunal to be successful. And that's our commitment.
Thank you, Dr. Ellis. Пане Антоне, ми всією Україною, звичайно, хочемо.
Anton, we really want Putin and Russian leaders and authorities to be punished. And we want it to happen on the top level using the strictest laws possible. Why do we need that tribunal in the first place? Why it's not enough to have just an international criminal court? Hello, dear colleagues. It's very nice to be here during this meeting, and it's quite an important event, signing of the memorandum, and you will witness this soon. The creation of the International Tribunal against the crime of aggression against Ukraine is one of the key things to ensure justice, because right now in the international law it's said that there are 4 categories of most serious crimes: genocide, crimes against humanity, war crimes, and crimes of aggression. Speaking about the first 3 categories, in Hague we have International Criminal Court that's studying the situation in Ukraine in the context of these 3 categories, and in March this year they issued first orders to arrest Mr. Putin and Ms. Lvova-Belova for the crimes against Ukraine and crimes of deportation. But speaking about crimes of aggression or crimes against peace, there's a little bit of a gap here. There is no international court or tribunal that has jurisdiction to hold people accountable for that crime. So there is a gap, and we need to fill it, especially considering that responsibility for such crimes it means responsibility for the war against Ukraine as a whole, because the crime of aggression is individual responsibility of military and political leadership of the Russian Federation for committing acts of aggression, for the aggressive war against Ukraine. This is why we are sure that the gap that we have, needs to be filled, and we need a special tribunal that has the right jurisdiction to prosecute and punish people that committed that crime. And we've been working on that for a year and a half. We have certain interim results, including the International Center of Persecution for Crimes against Ukraine that investigates the crimes of aggression. That's what our partners called History in the Making. We're creating history. Besides, we have political support on the level of resolution of parliamentary assemblies of the Council of Europe, European Parliament, national parliaments, OSCE. So the work is ongoing to make sure we create this special tribunal, and we're sure that its creation and functioning is not just important for Ukraine in order to hold Russian leaders responsible, but also for the international law, because I absolutely agree what Dr. Mark Ellis said. If we don't hold these people responsible, well, can we even do it in general in the international law? But it's also important that leading bar associations support us, both international and national. So lawyers all around the world support the creation of the International Tribunal. They understand the value of it, why it's so important. When we appreciate the efforts from the International Bar Association and Ukrainian Bar Association that joined their efforts, and also made possible other resolutions signed by other countries. And we are sure that our appeals to create the International Tribunal is an appeal coming from the Ukrainian Bar Association and all international and national bar association working all around the world to make sure we provide justice. And I'm sure that today the Bar Association and Inter-Faction Association will give an impetus and make our efforts ongoing. Mykola, this tripart participation, how is going to help create tribunal for Putin and Russian leaders? Hello everyone. That's true. The association, the Bar Association, consistently discusses about it and engages all association members so that we can talk about these atrocities all around the world. And we're thankful to our colleagues in the International Bar Association for their help since the start of the war, and our cooperation with the International Bar Association has deepened and changed significantly. In the Ukrainian Bar Association, there are more than 70,000 members. All of them are professional lawyers, and we do understand that today we need to take a commitment to invest our intellect, our skills into fulfilling this complex task, the creation of the International Tribunal. And this is why we're engaging leading specialists, Ukrainian professionals, for the discussion on the national and international level. And this memorandum, by the way, is going to become the next step to reconfirm the existing achievements and to emphasize once again it's important both for the Ukrainian community and the international community. And we need to understand, getting back to what Mark and Anton talked about, we really facing a dilemma of the international public law. We have a gap, but we need to look at our history. The international law has been changing. It's pretty new, actually, and it shouldn't terrify us. It's appeal to the international community, but it's also appeal to our community. We need not be afraid of the change. Because of the war, we need to push the world towards to the change. But this change is going to help, and we need that tribunal. We need a tribunal that will create a new legal framework to make sure it doesn't happen again. And we should prevent the international law from dying. The whole world needs to understand. We do understand that as Ukrainians, but people all around the world need to understand that the crimes of aggressions will repeat again and again, and we need to resolve it right now. This is why the signing of this memorandum and engaging of different people, intellectuals, to fulfill that task is a hard job. And I'm sure that it will yield a positive result. Oleg, we are sure that the tribunal will be created, but there are certain risks about the format. As far as I understand, Ukraine wants the creation of an international tribunal, not a hybrid format. Can you please elaborate on that? What is Ukraine's vision of this tribunal? What is the requirement? We are working on certain options for this tribunal, including through the General Assembly of the UN and other options. But the hybrid version where the tribunal is created based on the Ukrainian law is not what we want, because the Ukrainian legislation, I mean, in this case, we need to change the constitution, but it's not possible during the martial law. And number two, the decision will be made by Ukraine, not on the international level. This is the biggest armed conflict in Europe starting from 1945. And we need to understand that it's unprecedented. If you look at Bakhmut, the way it looks like right now, it was like Stalingrad back in the days. We never had that before. This is why it's critical for us to engage international community, just like during the Nuremberg process. So it's important to have other countries, groups of countries, based on their votes in the UN. We need their support. It should be international format. This is why we're working on that. And I appreciate Mark Ellis's efforts and the International Bar Association. Thanks a lot to him for agreeing to be engaged. And I guess we can start the procedure right now. So please, can you please prepare for the signing? I was the first to get the one signed by everyone. That's a good sign. Well, we hope that today's event, we will make this day closer when we will create a tribunal against Russian leaders that are responsible for destroying Ukrainian cities and killing Ukrainian citizens. So we can start a Q&A session. Do we have any questions? If we don't have questions, you can sum it up for today, please. Yeah, thank you very much for your participation. Actually, just like my colleague said, it's a great step forward. We reconfirm our success, our achievements, and also the plans for the future. So I guess together with Mark Ellis, we will approve a plan how this army of lawyers all around the world will communicate even more actively. They can lobby the creation of this tribunal against Putin and his minions, with a close cooperation with our lawyers, with the parliament, with the office of Ukrainian president, with the Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the whole Ukrainian nation, and the international community, those who consider themselves the free world. Because it's really, if we don't do it now, if we don't create this international tribunal, all potential aggressors around the world watch this closely, watch how this situation will unfold. And it's in the best interests of our women, children killed by Russian missiles. There's a lot at stake. What can stop the conflict? The day that we can call a victory is the day where these people will be held responsible. Please stay with us, watch the news, and see you tomorrow. Glory to Ukraine.